Hey guys, and welcome back to another round of Let's Make Hybrids. This is part 2 of the Crocodile Big Cat prompt, and there's been some really incredible artworks, and I say it every time, but you guys blow me away every time. Like I said, this is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1 yet, please stop, go check it out. You really don't want to miss out on those. Now, speaking of amazing artwork, for our very first one, we have this Cheetah Croc by Cherish. Cherish also submitted a crocodile lion in part 1, and it had this really beautiful, almost painted-like texture, and I see that they've gone for that again with this one as well. And I also love the vibrant colours, it looks beautiful. The shape of the head as well just looks so unique. And what's really cool actually is that the fact that they've added in this really thick large neck, which is meant to simulate the neck blubber that male seals have, which protect them from fighting. So it's a really cool additional touch, and I think it suits it quite nicely. And next up we have the Crocodile by Gugenheim. Now, I not only just love the design of the hybrid itself, I just think it looks so cool and so sinister, but I absolutely just love the whole poster idea. I think the whole thing just comes together so well. Not to mention at the very top there, from the creators of Orcamado, Leo Bravish, and Voltorpian, there's just been something really cool, but people just like, you know, slipping in references to previous prompts. I think this one looks absolutely fantastic. I really just think the design and the style just sells it so well. Next up we got one by Hazilla. The amazing caption, size, big, weight, massive, speed, doesn't matter, you're a goner. Don't ask how we found that out. I really like it. And I also love how the mane is actually on the back of the creature this time, which kind of makes sense for something that'd probably be like semi-aquatic, to have all the fur on the top as opposed to the bottom like a regular lion. And as always, I just love Hazard's sketches. I just love how he does like all the construction, all the lines. The face is always so strong and bold, it looks brilliant. Next up we have this really cool piece by JustNo. I gotta say, I just really love the overall texturing here. Like, it's just such a lovely, I kind of want to call it like charcoal maybe, or like just some kind of very soft pencil. The markings overall, just the amount of like varying pressures and shading, it's just beautiful. It just looks so fluffy and so soft. I think it's a good display of technique. Plus the whiskers on the face are also like a really nice extra touch. And next up we got an Amazonian Jaguar Black Cayman by Sommy. The third of many. In all fairness, so I do think it's really cool how Sommy has integrated their own Amazonian character into the prompts, and I think it just looks really, really cool overall. And I especially love the markings and all the tribal outfitting. Next up we got a trio by Matula's Dinosaur, the first of which is a Croc Cheetah, the next of which is a Croc Lion, and the third of which is a Croc Tiger. It's really nice seeing how the three vary and also their accompanying environments. And in particular to the tiger one, I also just really like how they've done the stripes. The tiger stripes are the kind of thing that can very easily just look a bit wrong, but I do think that Matula's here has done a fantastic job. Following Matula's, we have Sommy, once again. But there's Sarkodon Onka, which is a Jaguar Smilodon Black Cayman Sarcosuchus hybrids. In other words, a hybrid of two of their previous hybrids, so now we've got like a hybrid cubed, I think. In all seriousness though, it does look fantastic. It's also a really cool way that Sommy's been able to show their different styles. So like they've just been very, very diverse, very dynamic. This one in particular has got absolutely beautiful lighting, beautiful shading. I really love the warm upper glows with the cooler and yet still nice and light, kind of a shadow, more like another glow underneath. The contrast in colours is beautiful, and the face is just awesome. I love the texturing, all the jaguar spots and the scales around the face and the front legs, and the whole thing just looks incredibly badass. Sommy's really done an absolutely fantastic job. Next up we have LaggyCatMaster with what I can guess is probably either a lion or a king cheetah. I say lion because, you know, of course, like big fluffy mane, but also king cheetah because their manes tend to, or at least their mohawks, if you will, tend to go down quite far. Could be either one, but either way though, I really like the overall, the angle and posturing on this one. It's a really nice, interesting view to look down on the creature in this very kind of curvy posture, and I think it's very, very creative and it really makes it stand out. And following Laggy is good old Maver with their first mega build. This one of the Leodiles versus the Leobrigators. This is just really awesome. It's really cool seeing the two different scenes, also the construction and the heads. In fact, it's actually quite fascinating to see Maver tackle a mega build for a change. He does such a good job of defining large features in such a clean and polished way in regular sport that it's very cool to see him do it in a mega build. Again, still no mods, so this is completely vanilla, and just be able to add even more detail than I normally would. I also just really love the patterning on the Leobrigator, which I assume is the white one, with those beautiful leopard stripes, which are just so well defined. Not to mention the poses themselves are very eye-catching. Next up we got another one by LaggyCatMaster, their Lion Leopard Crocodile. Again, another really cool angle. Laggy, I think you're doing a fantastic job when it comes to these particular angles and views. Once again, look down on the creature with a nice curvy posture, but this time kind of mid-animation, or in this case mid-attack. I think it looks really nice. And I also really like how you've integrated the two different cats together, especially the big lion mane, the tuft on the chin and on the tail, while still giving a nice, you know, spotted leopard appearance. Really nice balance. Now next up we've got a Tigress Spinos by Kamsteel. a Spinosaurus tiger. Now, I know, calm down. Obviously a Spino is not a crocodile. But you can't deny that a lot of people lately, especially 2020, have been drawing Spinosauruses with a very crocodilian appearance. So you know what? I want to promote creativity here. I want to promote people putting effort in. I'm not going to say no to Kamsteel. I think this looks absolutely beautiful. It's also an idea I really will tackle myself. Tiger and Spino, my favourite animal and my favourite dinosaur. But in all seriousness, I absolutely love the design. I really like the stark contrast between, you know, the tiger patterning and the rest of the crocodilian body. I also think the posturing and anatomy itself is also just really unique. Like, it really kind of stands out more. It definitely has like a very Spinosaurian kind of posture, but it still feels a bit more mammalian. I think it's because of the shorter neck and just the way everything's a little bit more hunched together. And as a hybrid, I think it works out really nicely and creates a very unique silhouette. Not to mention, like I said, a very creative idea. Next up we have RubinaDragon 0221 with their Smilosutras Aatrox, which is a hybrid of the Smilodon and Deinosuchus. I love the dark area vibe of this one, and I also just really like the way that the jaw's been created and the big saber teeth. I also really like the more subtle markings on this one. It's got a much more crocodilian feel, but the markings and the overall width of the creature do still give me like a bit of a mammalian vibe. And next up we have the Cougar Sutures by Tyros. Now the face on this one is really quite amazing. I believe this is based on the Barbarophilidae, which is a relative of the saber-toothed cat family. And its jaws do really have these great big just things that kind of sheath their teeth like a sword. So this is a really creative addition and a really cool choice. Not to mention the design itself, I just love the way it's illustrated, the variation in the markings as well, particularly around the arm and the majority of the neck. Not to mention a nice contrast in colours between the white, brown and purple. It's got a really awesome style to it, and I also just really love the design of the tail as well. It's a really cool mashup between a crocodile's paddle tail, but covered in fur. Really effective. Next up we've got Maver with their Cougator. Another really cute and cool piece. Once again, I just love the way that he integrates them into the environment with all these different, you know, like different postures and such. It's such a clever and elegant way of displaying it. I also really like the design itself. It's just very nice, clean and simple. I love how the textures do a lot of the talking, and I really like the almost otter-like posture. Next up we've got this rather beefy looking Lion Gator by Goodboy95. Some good old vanilla spore. I quite like the coloration on this one. It's got like a bit of a nice warmer hues, but while still being somewhat crocodilian. And I also like the osteoderms around the back and the armor plating around the belly. And next up we have Xeras with their Crocodile Jaguar hybrid. Really liking the facial construction on this one, and once again just all the depth in the markings. They've also mentioned how they have quite a few little Easter eggs within the markings themselves. I recognise 2 of them. Oh, actually I see a third one as a Pokeball. That's really quite cool, to be honest. Really clever. Just like slipped in little Easter eggs in these markings. Like, if you guys can try and spot, pun intended, if you can spot the Easter eggs and tell me in the comment section, I'd really love to see them. And also to Xeras, I see that they've tried doing a topside view, which I noticed was their biggest enemy. Mate, I think you did a very, very good job, to be honest. I think it's a really cool top view, and I also like how it's also mid-curve as opposed to, you know, just like a straight rigid one. It's absolutely lovely work. I also just really like the webbed paws and the very large mammalian but still paddle-like tail. And next up we got a Lion Croc Sport Creation by Gabby-Bean. Another cute vanilla one. I really like the construction of the face, especially the teeth, very nicely done. Very beautiful placement of the fur parts to create the mane and the tail as well, and I really like the osteoderms while also in conjunction with the texturing going down the tail. It's a really nice balance. The face in particular I think is very, very well crafted. And following Gabby-Bean is Lolagyre with their white tiger crocodile hybrid, also sporting an awesome lion mane. I really like the posturing on this one. I gotta say, the combination of the crocodile head and the lion mane kind of really reminds me of Amit, but the posturing as well, just the way it almost feels tiptoed with the tail kind of strut up in the air, it really feels elegant, almost kind of deity-like. It kind of feels like very proud. I can imagine it being another deity like Amit, but perhaps something leaning more towards pride or riches, especially as white tigers are quite often associated with royalty. I think this is really, really cool. It's got some very interesting interpretations. Next up by Jenna Pothier is the Painted Tygon Grok. I really like the more pale colour scheme on this one. Despite it being part tiger, it still kind of reminds me of a lion, just in the warmer, like more savannah colours. I also really like the design of the mane, and also it's got a bit of a Chinese dragon kind of face in a way, which is actually kind of interesting because, you know, obviously crocodile with mammalian features is what a lot of Chinese dragons have. We can also see that Painted Tygon Croc in the wilderness, which shows an interesting dynamic of the creature, another brand new angle, especially with its claws like really outstretched and a mouth open. Also really like the creature as hunting as well. It looks very nice. Also beautiful work in the grass. And also as a bit of a bonus extra from Jenna Pothier, we have this mad scientist Jowie, which is cooking up some more hybrids. I must say I really relate to that. And next up we have a Cav Akaku with their Crocodile. There's something about his style, it kind of really reminds me of like very, very old school encyclopedias. It's got a gorgeous design. It feels very old-fashioned and traditional. I think the way the mouth is designed is very interesting. You can see like it's got like a almost like a crocodile skull, but very mammalian features on top, and I think it's a really beautiful balance. I also really like just the way that the paws are done. Once again, very well constructed. Not to mention the angle and view itself is also just something that makes it stand out a bit more. I think this is a wonderfully polished piece. And next up we got some construction doodles by Empiric. So if I recall, Empiric might not be able to do the coloured one in time, therefore she's given us this one. I gotta say, the face really sells it. But in all seriousness though, it's definitely a very interesting approach of a more humanoid variant while still being completely and utterly feral. I also just really love the different, really, you know, feline postures, especially the middle one and the two on bottom. I think it's a wonderful twist on the idea. And next up we got this rather peculiar piece by Glad to be Chillin'. This has gotta be the very first one that's strayed away from 4 limbs at all. In fact, yeah, I think every single one of our pieces has been 4 limbs, which of course there's nothing wrong with that. So it's very interesting to see Glad to be Chilling going with this, you know, very different design. It also really reminds me of a spore creature, which certainly gives it like a very nice bit of extra charm. I also love the way they've done the osteoderms along the hips and the tail. They're so bright, so well defined, so strong. Oh no, actually I'm very wrong. As I was looking around the markings on the neck, I noticed it's actually got like a vestigial little crocodile arm there. That's really subtle. It's a very interesting design. So it's a biped with kind of Kano arms in a way. This is really cool. It really has me looking in deeper and deeper, just to, you know, try and see what's what, and I find more and more details as I observe it. And next up we got Dragon 33657, and if I remember correctly, I believe Dragon said that they're using this prompt as part of their story making. So they've intertwined this really awesome crocodile tiger, I think? Tiger lion into their universe, and I gotta say, the overall concept design is absolutely stunning, both in terms of illustration, the outfitting. It works out really nicely as some kind of battle mount. I really love all the seashell adornments as well. Plus, as part of concept art, having a fish on the hip is also like very clever and very practical. This is really fantastic, and it's really cool to see how people intertwine this into their own projects as well. And next up we got a traditional sketch by Clover Sage. Really loving the variety of markings in this one. It's got like these very large, I can't remember the term, it's like very large, not quite leopard spots on the back, but then transitions into leopard spots on the arms, and it just has like a very nice kind of variety. I also like how defined the tail is and the transition, and I also really like the construction of the head. And next up we got one by GGabrielBF of this almost swamp monster looking one. This one looks quite intimidating. I also just really like the, can I just say, like little tufts of fur coming out from the back of the jaw beneath the ears. Almost kind of look like a dillo frill for a moment, but it's just like a very nice fluffy mane, and I think it looks really interesting. I also like all the light blue scales. I think it's a really nice highlight. Not to mention just the overall shading, considering I do believe this is done in ink, and I really like how they've kind of used that to their advantage, especially in the main section of the green body, how you can see that all the overlapping kind of ink textures create this faux sense of stripes or overlapping fur. And next up we got this absolutely stunning piece by Oreloki once again of a crocodile Chinese guardian lion. This is stunning. I think the environment is absolutely beautiful. The mist really brings it out, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, a sheer amount of lighting and shadows within the creature itself. Loki does just such an amazing job when it comes to lighting and shadows, and I think this is probably one of the better ones in my opinion. It's got like a very subtle, polished feel. It feels very mystical, almost kind of like a statue in a way. And I also think that all the consistent markings, like just all the scales, all the osteoderms, the fur, especially the curls, they all just look so consistent. None of them look too cluttered, none of them look too close or too broad. It just has this beautiful kind of evenness to it all. I think Loki's done an absolutely just stunning job. And next up we have Choi Choi Boy, the Caprasuchus African lion. I really love the transition in the body there. Something about it just feels extremely striking, how it's got like this very crocodilian body, but it transitions into the lion paws, the underbelly, and of course the great big head. It almost feels like a crocodile wearing lion skin. Just the overall way you've kind of proportioned the two, and like where it ends and where it starts between the two different animals, I think just comes together really nicely. And the two sketches on the upper and below as well just do such an amazing job. Not to mention those sketches, your scale work is absolutely stunning. That's extremely cool. I'd love to see this one in 3D, just saying. And next up we have this sweetie by Godzilla King 5678 of their snow leopard crocodile, or as they call it, their snow leopardile. Very cute piece. I love how she's casually eating a little bit of chicken there. Relatable. Really like the scale work of the head, the neck, the shoulders, and the end of the tail, and of course a nice mid-action pose. And next up we got an Egyptian croc lion by Zemi. Now, if I remember correctly, I believe that Zemi said that they were kind of experimenting with an old style they used to do when they were younger. I'm not entirely sure if I remember that right, but I do like just the more cartoonish style here as well. Also the nice bright colours. I could see this working as some kind of video game or TV character. just in the large, bold shapes and the simplicity of the design, but still complex enough where it gives like a bit of originality. I think it's a really cool design, not to mention just the posture itself and the hug me. Following Zemi is Crocodile with their small creation. This one's stunning. The textures really do bring it out, both in terms of the color palette and just, you know, the HD textures themselves. The facial construction is absolutely fantastic. It's got a very mean but a very well-made look. I also just really like the musculature in the back tail, the addition of all the fins and fur, and the tail itself. In fact, the tail and the entire back, all the ostrich and all the scales, they look absolutely fantastic. A lot of thought has gone into place in them, and I think it really stands out. Following up next is RubinaDragon with another really beautiful piece. Now, while this one may not have any large flashy designs, I think just the overall construction, all the colours, all the shading, all the muscle definition, how pronounced the teeth are, the piercing eyes, what it lacks for in big features, it truly really makes up for in just the sheer style, execution. This one just looks incredibly polished and actually the kind of thing I can see in a book. I think it's beautiful, and I especially just really love the musculature around the shoulders and the arms, and I really love the way that the face has been, just in every sense of the word, created. Absolutely beautiful work. And coming up next, we got weapontale with their Black Panther Crocodile. I absolutely love the head on this one. The skull just has such a nice lean form. Very smooth, almost regal looking. I also really like the osteoderms on the back, the big scales, and also the way that the underbelly's been drawn and coloured. I think the colour palette really makes it striking. Not to mention all the fur kind of overlapping over it. And next up, we got another piece by Caliber Light of their Nile Crocodile Lion. Once again, I really love how the fur kind of flows above and overlapping the scaly feet. It feels really long and fluffy, almost kind of like royalty in a way. It reminds me a bit of a griffin. Not to mention the entire posture as well does feel just very royal, which kind of makes sense, you know, given the lion theme. I also really like the design of the face and head, the large protruding teeth and a very long intimidating snout, but also adorned with like these really nice tufty fur parts, and also the scaling and also done around the back and the tail. The tail itself's got a really nice transition between the two different animals as well. This one gives like a very nice royal, kind of almost deity-like vibe. Following Caliber Light is Sommy with, I believe, their final one. In all seriousness though, these have always been absolutely fantastic, and for Sommy we have the Laughing Ghoul, which is a mugger croc and a bobcat tiger. With this one, Sommy had explained that since some big cats can sound like screaming women, and crocodiles can create deep guttural sounds and vibrations, they thought this creature could cackle like a witch for its vocalization, sort of combining these two different noise-making strategies. And in the illustration itself, I can definitely see that, like just generally just how large the creature is. It's got a very large skull, very large rib cage, and of course the fact that it's been captured, you know, mid, I assume, cackle. I can imagine this creature really, like, definitely let loose some really large and intimidating bassy rules. It's really cool to see a design that kind of revolves around the sound that the creature makes, and I think someone's done a very good job of conveying that. Very creative and very nicely done. And coming up next, we got Nobody with their Kaiga, a black caiman tiger. Is this rigged? Mate, I'm jealous. This looks really cool. The base model on the top looks absolutely beautiful. It just looks very polished. I really like just the very large scales coming off the sides of the forearms in particular. That just looks really cool, and especially when they're coloured in, it just looks beautiful. It gives me some really real Monster Hunter vibes. I think the rigged poses below just give it so much life, and it's making me increasingly jealous as I look at it. But I also do find it extremely inspiring. It's just really amazing how it's all come together. I think the rendering also really helps it as well. But the coloration, I think the coloration is probably what stands out to me the absolute most. It's such an unexpectedly bright contrast, and I just think it works really nicely for it. Next up, we got another piece by Hazilla of the Smiling Sutured Thanatos, or in other words, Scalpel Crocodile Death. What a badass name, Haz. Really loving the entire design overall. Like, just look at the absolute size and musculature of this thing. It definitely does come across as, you know, some kind of death creature. Really loving just all the different layers of scales and spikes, especially around the neck, the back, and the shoulders. Also the subtle mane coming on down below, and I believe around the forearms. Really lovely shading there, really nice pencil marks. Plus just the way the tail curves as well just gives it so much more depth, and I think it looks fantastic. And coming up next, we have one by Dinosaur Awesome Dude, of what I believe to be a snow leopard crocodile. It's got a really nice form, and I do quite like the bipedal stance. I think it makes it stand out quite a bit. Seeing the cat's ears and the crocodilian surface, it's an interesting choice. And I like all the fuzz and fur around the chest. And next up we have one by Mermaid. I really like the ambience glowing in this one. The glowing orange eyes and just how the green kind of makes the creature almost camouflage in a way. I also like the big ears and the overall mid-action roar. Really brings it to life. And next up, we've got another by Caliber Light, the Freshwater Crocodile Cheetah. Having seen the variety that Caliber has brought to us, I really love how with the cheetah one, they've gone like with a much more leaner body, and especially just the head. I think the head really suits the entire theme here. Just how it goes into this much more narrow, more delicate looking snout, as it should, with cheetahs do have a very delicate looking form, as should the crocodilian part as well, in my opinion. I think Caliber's done a beautiful job there. I also really love just how they've intertwined all the scales and spots together. I think as a sketch, it looks really beautiful and gives it like a really nice faux sense of complexity or detail. Also love the tail, and I just really love all the subtle bits of fur, especially around the back of the neck, around the chest, and how a lot of it kind of intertwines into these much larger scales. Overall, it's just really beautiful. It's very lean, very graceful looking, and I think they fit together very well. Next up, we got a Saber-Tooth Caiman by Silverlight. Now, I recall Silverlight saying about how they couldn't decide on which one to draw, therefore they decided to draw both the hybrids duking it out. And there is also a fair few Easter eggs in the background if you guys can spot them all. What I see is a Jowie, a Draki. The Jowie has a cup of tea of my name, Dark Edge, on it. There's Ale the Noodle in the top left corner. I believe a Komodo Orca in the upper right in the waterfall. I can see a tail hidden behind the tree next to Draki's head. I can see some great big yellow paws to the left of the Jowie and some yellow markings on the tree. I can see a lionfish cobra in the waterfall to the left and a small lizard blapping between the two fighters. It's always fun just having like little puzzles and little scavenger hunts and artworks like this. I think it's just really cool when people add Easter eggs and references. But for the actual designs themselves, I think the two designs are awesome. I love the large contrasting colours between the pair of them. The blue one's got an absolutely beautiful design in their tail as well. I love all the scale work as well. All the large white gems and dark green scales on both of them. Not to mention the shading. I think the shading just looks really nice and how all the colours come together. The Silverlight is absolutely beautiful, man. Thank you very much. Got the Ridgeback to Leopard, or the Felix Sutures by ThePlague Bringer. I really love the method of shading and texture on this one. It's got like a very soft appearance. I also just really like the way that the back and tail are designed. Also how the entire creature kind of transitions into lighter shades down below. And the face, I think the face just looks really beautiful. Especially with large big teeth as well. Gives like a nice interesting contrast. In fact, I'd like to note that the general markings and spots just around the forehead, I think just are a beautiful balance in terms of colour and shading. It's just such a nice bright hue, and I think that the entire thing, to be fair, is just really nicely done. Next up, we have another piece by Zeplenking. This time going for a more crocodilian route. I gotta say, the skull looks really epic, just really spiky and formidable. I really like the scaling done on the hands, the very subtle mane around the neck, the clean leopard spots along the body, and I really like the design of the tail. And also from Zeplenking, we've got this really awesome bonus piece, which is a compilation of all of the hybrids that we have done so far, plus a couple extra actually, which I think looks really cool. I really do love seeing all this come together, and I really do think that Zeppelin did a fantastic job. And also, my friend, happy late birthday. I really hope you enjoyed yourself. Following Zeplenking is a Viking Leo with this really awesome, I think, ink piece. I absolutely love just the bright colours. It really makes it pop out so much. Also using all the reds and blues for the shadowing adds like a really nice contrast. And I really like all the more subtle line art which helps define all the scales, in particular around the nostrils and the eyes. Very bright, very striking. I really love the colour palette. And at long last, we have DreadDrago with their coloured piece. I know you worked very hard on getting this done in time, but I am really sorry, DreadDrago, but I must say, it really came out absolutely stunning. I was really excited to see this one coloured out, so thank you. And yeah, it just looks absolutely awesome. I've got to say, I also really like the environment. The environment is just really rich considering. I think so far, a lot of our pieces have had, understandably, very secondary environments. I think this one here, you've really given it like a lot of attention. But also I just really like the colour palette of the two creatures themselves. The shading's wonderful, gives it a lot of depth, especially around the neck and around the side of the torso. The musculature, same as before, was just beautifully defined. And it's really awesome just seeing the pair of these, you know, mid-combat, just seeing how they hold themselves up. All the different views and angles and seeing different details. The whole thing just looks so beautifully badass and really well done. And for our very final piece of the day, we have this Servile by CoolCrow, which is a Serval-Gharial mix. She described that it has long legs and mouth to allow it to wade through the water and hunt for fish like a stork, and that the pink colour palette was just, to be fair, a change of pace, and you know what? I actually think it works out really nicely. Pink is a very unusual choice, and I have to say, just that choice of colour alone gives us so much character, so much personality. It really makes it stand out. I also just want to note that I really like how the tip of the nose kind of tips out to black. Again, just gives it like a bit more character. And this being pink has also offered it some very interesting shading opportunities, in particular around the tail and the bottom of the feet. I love all the spots, all the light and dark ones. This is really beautiful, and I just think it looks really iconic and very original. Really nicely done. And that, my friends, concludes the Crocodile Big Cat prompt. God, I knew you guys were going to do some great things, but you still blew me away regardless. Really incredible stuff. I know I haven't been able to do mine yet. I'm probably not going to be able to do it anytime soon, if I'm going to be honest. I've got a lot of work on, but I will be doing my own submissions probably in the future, but just know that I am going to do them as well. These are absolutely fantastic, man, and you know, how can I not join in? Now, for the next prompt, I've had some really creative and varied ideas from the community, especially in Discord. A lot of them have been really hard to choose, especially two in particular. So I am going to flip a coin. And yeah, let's see which one wins, shall we? We've got tails, which means that we are going to go with a seahorse and a moth. Or a butterfly, if you want. A seahorse and a moth butterfly beautifully winged insect. Many thanks for all the suggestions of all the different creative prompts. Like I said, this one was a hard choice and I flipped a coin between two of my favourites. So we'll probably be seeing the other one next time, but for now, my friends, I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of varied and probably more elegant, beautiful looking creatures you'll come up with. It's also got really interesting potential, like it's going to be a flyer or is it going to be a swimmer? Could it even be terrestrial? You never know. But as always, I can't wait to find out. And of course, if you want to join in and submit your own artwork, you're more than welcome to. You can do so either in Discord, you can email me, you can reply in the comment section down below, or you can message me on Twitter and DeviantArt. Everything's on the screen, all the links, all the details, and I look forward to seeing them all. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful day. Cheers.